Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. I know last week we had some type of interference or something on the audio, so I'm hoping I got it fixed this week. But as soon as we go to do the show, my computer crashes, which is the first time ever since we've been running on this rig for like 3 or 4 years now. I don't even know how old it is, but majorly annoying. So I hope the fix stayed. If not, I'll be checking into it again. I don't even know what was up last week, so I apologize. It wasn't that bad. It was just the levels were really weird, and it was like compressed to no end for some reason. But it's a weird show anyway. It's not going to be because of the Mike Tomlin rumors. The NFL, I'm going to kind of mix with the college stuff, but let's get into your stuff, Matt. Congratulations with the big upset last week. Putting you guys, I mean, you were pretty much locked into the playoffs now. How does this help your seeding?
Well, it goes from being on the road for the playoffs to potentially hosting a first round playoff game. So we're back at it this week. We're technically home, but instead of playing at Hollidaysburg where we've been playing the last couple weeks, we're playing this week at Altoona at Mansion Park.
Oh, so you're not even at Hollidaysburg this week?
No.
Is it still considered a home game for you?
We're still the home team, but we've just kind of just been on the road the whole year, so it almost just feels like that's just become our new norm. Okay,
so basically you're not locked into one place, because I was hoping that if you were in Hollidaysburg or whatever, you'd get used to it, and then it would kind of feel like home away from home by this time. But now they're putting you somewhere totally different anyway.
Well, for the most, I mean, it's been relatively consistent with Hollidaysburg, but because there was overlap with Hollidaysburg's schedule this week, and just didn't make sense with playoffs coming up next week to push the game to Saturday.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know you guys have a tough one. What do you think going into this one?
Going into it, I almost feel like we're playing with house money. Like the kids seem really loose because we know we're in the playoffs, and pretty much everyone's writing us off this week too because of the team that we're playing, who shall remain nameless. Has annually been one of the best teams in our conference. So we've gone in saying we're not saying the name. We're just going to play the game, and we're preparing. We've had a great week of preparation so far.
I think I heard Harbaugh say that once.
You might have.
Yeah, well, good luck going forward. I'm hoping you guys can use it at least as a springboard into prep for your playoffs, because that'll be just kind of a good gauge for you going into that first playoff round.
Well, and we kind of joked about it today at practice that when we pull the upset off, we're carrying the bus home and gonna have a pretty crazy party.
Well, I hope it works out. So good luck, and we'll be checking in next week with you.
Sounds good.
Now back to our main topic. Basically, the coaching carousel. It's not even Halloween yet, Matt. And we're getting major annoying coaching changes that are it's unbelievable this year. And like the audacity of some of these programs to just fire coaches. The main one we're going to focus on is Mike Tomlin and USC. Because USC, I don't know why anyone would want to work there. And I think, this is my opinion, because my phone blows up. Last night, everyone's like, did you hear what Mike Tomlin, he's going to USC. People think that he's going there. And I'm like, no, there's no way that just happened. Like, I'm not going to be in denial if it did happen. So I look into it. He has no ties to USC. I mean, to be honest, I've never looked up Mike Tomlin's background because I really didn't care. I thought he was an NFL guy all around, but he did start in college, never a head coach in college. Just kind of was an assistant until he got his assistant gig in the NFL. But Carson Palmer goes on the show, and I mean, he dropped Mike Tomlin's name on purpose. And my feeling is Mike Tomlin already shut it down. That's the title of the show anyway. So if you didn't read it and you started to listen, you know that he shot it down. And he was pretty mad about it. I actually had his quote. Let's hope I still have it up since I think everything loaded on my computer. But, yep. So Mike Tomlin said, I don't have time for that speculation. That's a joke to me. Basically, yeah, USC. A joke to him. I've been one of the best. He says, I've one of the best job in all of professional sport, which I hope is a typo, because if he talked like that, I'd be like, are you kidding me? I just saw the ending where he said, why would I have interest in coaching college football? Never say never, but never. And then he said, there's not a booster with a big enough blank check. Because he's right. He coaches for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've said maybe it's time for him to move on. Because if you're looking at his record and everything, he's been tied to Big Ben, and that's what everyone's been telling me. Oh, he hasn't coached without Big Ben. What are you going to do without a legendary quarterback? He's working for the Steelers. They've been getting cap room, and they've been getting things set up. How do you know? And I know I've joked about like Aaron Rodgers, but Mike Tomlin has enough clout where he could say, hey, I'm a defensive guy. Make room. Get me Aaron Rodgers. I'll make the defense work if you have to move some of my guys like Joe Hayden. You know? Give me some young guys. I'll coach them up. Just give me a quarterback that can get us to the next level. And we don't know. But like for him to just say, hey, I'm a Hall of Fame NFL guy. I'm not going to move to a different team that maybe is just a coach away. Because like Andy Reid made it work going to Kansas City.
Funny that you say Andy Reid.
Why?
Because in his press conference, he cited Andy Reid and Sean Payton. He's like, are you asking Andy Reid? Are you asking Sean Payton?
That's because
and then he got up and left.
That's because Andy Reid, everyone knows that he's kind of a joke of a coach. Like if you compare him and Mike Tomlin, Tomlin's head and shoulders above just in terms of record and stuff. So like Andy Reid's just been coaching forever. He has one Super Bowl. Tomlin has two. Same with Sean Payton. I honestly think that Tomlin was brought up because, number one, it was random. And that's a name where I think if other coaches or whatever hear it, they're going to think, oh, well, maybe I'm not as high on their list as possible. But let's go through their list. The initial list was Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's kind of doing his own thing in the NFL now, and their president said they wouldn't sign off on that hire. I mean, she came out and said that there's no way Urban Meyer would work here. So there goes coach number one. That's why I think Helton stuck around for one more year. But even if you're an incoming coach, you saw how they treated him, where they're like, hey, we couldn't get Urban Meyer, but come on back and we'll give you a fair shot. Nope. Pulled the rug out from under him, fired him right away. So now you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, now what am I doing? And okay, we can get James Franklin maybe. And that's my next topic on here. James Franklin hires a new agent. Maybe he is looking there, you know? Because I don't see the timeline that I've seen, and I haven't seen a good rebuttal to this. He hired the agent before the Iowa game. Penn State was ranked, what, 4th? 3rd? I think they were 4th, right? Because I think that was before Alabama lost. So they were 4th. They lose to Iowa. He had already signed the agent. I mean, he had no game plan with a backup QB. And it was pretty clear, based on some of the coaching rumors that came out about like him splitting reps the next couple weeks, not knowing who to play. They seem disorganized. They go play Illinois, and they have no answer on offense. He rushes his quarterback back for that game, which I still don't understand. Why would you bring Clifford back for Illinois? Like, was your backup quarterback that you're giving reps at practice that bad? Have you not been coaching him up? That you're like, hey, play hurt. Play hurt so that Ohio State now has all the film on what we're doing with you because you are hurt. And now they're probably just going to kill him. Right? I had my whole
I would think.
I had my whole list of like talking points for the end of the show because normally we go through the games, and I was going to see what you thought for the big game because ESPN definitely screwed up. Of course, they didn't know. They picked. So for people that don't know, they pick back and forth Fox and ESPN. Fox gets the first pick one week for the top Big Ten game. ESPN gets the next one. Obviously, ESPN picked first this week. They picked Ohio State, Penn State, thinking it was going to be game of the year in the Big Ten. Instead, they get Penn State, who comes off an Illinois loss. The coach goes to the press conference for Ohio State. He says Illinois. He said, yeah, I'm getting ready or focused on Illinois and playing in the big house, which is Michigan Stadium, not the shoe. So he's going to play Ohio State, doesn't even get it right in the conference. And that's a guy that was in press conferences saying the team. Remember, in the early weeks, he'd be like, we're talking about Akron here. Akron, or whoever they're playing. Villanova, 18 times. Now he doesn't even know what's going on. I think he's gone. What do you think?
I think it's hard to stay where he's at this point. I think he's maximized where he's at, and I think it only goes downhill from there because I think the pressure's only going to mount on him to do something, and I think he's going to bump his head with trying to compete with Michigan, losing to Ohio State. It's just you can't blow the game like you did to Illinois.
Yeah, I thought that I had stats, but maybe I didn't send them to you because I had too many other texts going. So just for context, Franklin had that one good year, and for people that don't watch the game, he's more of a recruiting. We've gone through the head coaching types. He's more of the recruiting head coach that's more hands off, doesn't do a lot of coaching in game. You'll see guys like him, Orgeron from LSU that just got fired. Brady Hoke from Michigan. We used to talk about it all the time. Brady Hoke didn't even wear a headset on the sideline. They asked him, yo, don't you want to hear what's going on? He's like, nah, I'm here to just recruit. And I mean, Matt, you joke about Brady Hoke. He's undefeated this year still. So he's 3 different teams he's had 6-0, 7-0. I forget how high he had Michigan that year before they ended up losing because I think they won 11-2. And I don't know what Ball State won. I think they only lost 1 game when he was there too. So maybe 2. But you can be highly successful. Number one, you have to hire the right assistants. James Franklin had that with Moorhead. When he lost Moorhead, there's been a clear drop off.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So you can have that. You got to be able to make the new one, similar to Coach O. You had Joe Brady, lose him and Burrow. Then you start doing weird stuff at practice with girlfriends and stuff. It's all right, you're gone, buddy.
But we talked about this before. He was looking for his replacement, and when Franklin hired that Urich to be his OC this year, there was all this hype because he was coming from Texas. What about anything associated with Texas currently makes you think, oh yeah, that's a winning formula?
That's what's our guy? Is it Nussmeier? The guy that was at Michigan, and then he went to Florida, and all those Florida guys were oh yeah, we got him, we stole him. Or maybe it was vice versa. Maybe Michigan got him from Florida, and I was like, have you seen that offense? It's going to be awful. I think he was at Alabama at one point. So I think he was at Alabama. Then he went to Michigan, and Michigan were oh yeah, we got him. We got him from Alabama. And then Florida got him, and they're oh yeah, we got the guy from Alabama and Michigan. We're winning. And I'm no, if that's your path, you're not winning at all. I'm going to look it up to see if that's what it is. Because I just remember that being the talking point where it's oh yeah, he's a big time guy. Yeah, he went from Alabama to Michigan, then to Florida. And both times Michigan was oh yeah, we stole him from Alabama. And then Florida's oh yeah, we stole him from Michigan. I'm no, guys, that's a downward trend. Penn State, you're stealing him from Texas. Did you not see their coach get fired? What are you doing here? It's not going to work out for you. Just give up. But, I mean, going back to the Tomlin thing too, because I don't want to gloss over that. If you're him, do you even consider going to college?
I want to say yes.
Why?
Because it's not like he's going to a super competitive division.
With USC?
Yeah.
But why the hell would he want to go there? They're crazy, Matt. Their fans are crazier than what Pittsburgh is. Pittsburgh and the NFL, they really don't care as long as you win. A lot of the blame gets passed on the quarterback. If Tomlin has a rookie quarterback, he's instantly buying himself, 3 or 4 years? As long as they don't go winless, which with him, let's be honest, the defense has looked awesome. So that's not going to happen. And so, like, just hearing it, but he's right. Like, why not go after these other guys? And then you know who they did bring up? Jeff Fisher. Which tells me that USC job isn't attractive. Like, if you're bringing in Urban, no. Mike Tomlin tells you no publicly. And then Luke Fickell, I've heard that he's turned it down. I don't know how solid that is. Because, like, he's waiting for something in the Midwest, is the rumor. Same with Matt Campbell from Iowa State. And those are all guys that Carson Palmer brought up. But those are all guys that I've heard have said no. Which, saying no now, you get a couple boosters in there, that could always change. Especially because how do you know the rest of the season is going to go good for you? Like Matt Campbell, they lose a couple more games at Iowa State, maybe he does jump at it. Doesn't get any other offers. But like at this point, it's not looking like USC is that top job, you know? And they don't even have the groomers going. That's what this made me think of. Remember Tennessee was going to hire John Gruden?
Yes.
They wanted him so bad. People were tracking flights. Gruden was taking pictures like at the bar in Tennessee. And I was hoping it happened so bad. And it didn't. And now I bet he regrets it, Matt. If he goes to Tennessee, his emails never get released. Which the NFL kind of used him as a scapegoat. Because where are the rest of those emails?
Yeah.
Because they came out where they were like exchanging photos, him and other GMs. They didn't say who. Was it just that Bruce guy? Where like the cheerleaders were topless and stuff, like they were just doing counter shots and they were just sharing them amongst themselves. So it's not like John Gruden's just like on a chain incriminating only himself, you know? Where are the rest of the guys?
They said they conducted an internal investigation and said, nah.
Yeah, one of the Congress members said that they're going to look into it. And I'm going to bring that up with the World Series, too, because... Oh, great, my thing's going off here. Let's just wait and see here. I don't know if I can mute myself. So, I don't know what's going to happen with, like, the investigation going forward, because they have to do something where it's going to be opened up, I would think. They did it for baseball. And I'm going to bring it up, if I remember, hopefully for the World Series. I do have it written down, so I'm hoping that I remember it. But that's the one thing where you have that, you scapegoat him, screws the Raiders. But if you'd went to Tennessee, that never would have happened. Like, they never would have just randomly went after John Gruden, you know, and no one else. So I want to see the rest of the emails. That's all I'm saying when I bring that up. Not that John Gruden didn't do anything wrong, but at this point, they're like, oh, yeah, that's wrapped up. Sorry, buddy, you're out, and your reputation's ruined.
Well, that's what I thought was the funniest part, was that there was like, no, we conducted an internal investigation. We're good. No, that was the only thing that was bad. Just John Gruden. Like, don't tell me that of like thousands of pages of emails, that was the worst thing. There had to have been more. Well,
that's what I was thinking, like, with the cheerleader stuff. Like, how many other guys were getting basically nude photos of the girls, probably without the permission, too. And, like, why is that wrapped up? And then also, people were attacking Adam Schefter, and because he was getting insider information from the NFL and then asking them to review it. No shit. I said that on the show. The NFL writes the articles for these guys that are insiders. Who do you think is giving them the insider information? Like, do you think he's calling up Antonio Brown personally? Hell no. Hell no. He's going right to the front office and they're saying like, hey, yeah, we have a contract dispute with so-and-so. And then they're just giving him whatever information they want to leak out. That's why you hear like the Tomlin thing. That didn't come from the NFL. Just like the Harbaugh stuff didn't come from the NFL. And if you remember that, because I went back to try to find some dates, the NFL circled the wagons on that Harbaugh to Michigan story. Harbaugh had a direct connection, and he basically said he was interested, and the NFL was like, no. We talked to his agent, all this stuff, and Harbaugh's like, look, I don't even have an agent. And they're like, no, we talked to your agent. He's like, no, I don't have one. I do my own negotiating or whatever he did. Because remember he has like that weird like family friend that does it or something. I don't even know what the situation is. But James Franklin, he's doing the opposite. He's like, oh yeah, I got a new guy. Like you don't just hire a new agent for no reason. You know, maybe you're looking for that raise, but like going back to the stats I had, he went 0-5 last year to start the season. I know they turned it around. They even beat Michigan. But now looking at it, Michigan's rolling and Penn State's going the opposite direction. He has a losing record to Michigan and Michigan State. I don't know how close he is to tying both of them. Like if he beats Michigan this year, it might be a tie. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe same with Michigan State. But right now, losing record to both, has only beaten Ohio State once. So like if you're USC or LSU, what's so appealing about that? How do you know he's going to hire a good staff, you know? Like everyone says USC and LSU can both recruit themselves, right? Why would you want James Franklin then?
Because that may be the flashiest name. Like, that could be one of those where I think if he were to go out west, he would have a little bit of a leash because it would buy him time to get his recruits in. And
I think anyone's going to have time because I don't think that anyone's interested in a job that just hangs you out to dry like USC has been doing. Like, remember they fired Lane Kiffin on the Carmack or whatever? The tarmac. And then they, what's the next part that they did? They, who's the other guy that they fired? There was someone else in there, wasn't there? Oh, no, Sarkisian, but he was drunk, right?
Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Ogeron.
Yeah, so they had quite a mess on their hands. So, like, you're looking at that, and then you look at the way they've strung Helton along while they were, like, the boosters were, like, negotiating with other coaches. Why would you want to go there? Like, say if you're James Franklin, you go there, and they were like, oh, Urban Meyer's interested again. Like, James, we're sorry. We saw your record against Urban. We got to go for Urban, right? We got to go at least take a run at him for one more time. Like, he's out here. Fox on the studio. Like, he would always be right there if he leaves Jacksonville and goes back to the Fox booth. Because I think they're in LA. So, like, he'd just be there. The other thing, and I don't know, I'm guessing it's public, but I thought that James Franklin had, like, a daughter or something that they had all, like, their family had moved to Florida. So I kept joking with you saying that he was going to go to Florida State. But I honestly think that a school like Florida State or the other dark horse for me would be Miami. I think they would be better fits for him. Apparently he's hiring an SEC type agent, so he wants big time money. I don't know if Florida State could afford him, and it looks like they're turning things around, so maybe they don't go. But Miami's going kind of the opposite. So are they going to be able to take that big jump? They already have like the NIL offers for their players where gyms are paying for them. So why not get him? And then like Florida State, they have enough alums and people that are close with the program that they can kind of insulate him with big time assistance. Like he doesn't have that at Penn State because a lot of the assistants like Larry Johnson and them that were there, they're out at Penn State because of the connection to the Joe Paterno scandal. So like they can't circle the wagons and bring like, hey, let's bring our guys in. Like Harbaugh circles the wagons, brings back like the equipment manager from like when he was a player and stuff. Like he can't do that at Penn State because of the stigma attached to that. So like maybe that's the reason he wants out. But I honestly wouldn't say that any of those jobs, LSU included, is better than Penn State. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe because like Penn State, it seems like they just don't stick up for themselves. I know they rallied against the media and stuff with the Paterno case, but like, why not rally against the media when you guys were snubbed after winning the Big Ten in the playoffs, you know? Like Ohio State got in there like, oh shucks. You know, it's not like we beat them. Oh, wait, yeah, you did. Like, how about you attack the media like you did in defense of Paterno whenever your team gets snubbed, and then maybe coach won't want to leave, you know? That's the only thing I can think of, is that he feels it's a losing hand for him. Because now, the other one would be Mel Tucker, too. He's getting offers. He's rumored with the LSU one. And you're Michigan State, you're trying to out or pay to keep him. But they lost Nick Saban to LSU back in the day. Maybe he goes there, Franklin goes to USC, and then how does that change the Big Ten? Those two programs are starting over. If Harbaugh stays, because he's having a good run, even if they lose to Ohio State again this year, is the Big Ten going to just become Ohio State and Michigan versus everybody else again? Because, like, I would think that it's setting up like that.
Well, what about, do you think that Penn State, like if Franklin were to go to USC, do you think they take a run at trying to bring Bill O'Brien back?
To be honest, I think they would. If I were them, I'd go after Matt Rule. He's a Paterno guy, and you kind of bridge that connection, bring him back in the fold, unless they go like Schiano. I know Bill O'Brien. My buddy reached out and said, "Oh, Bill O'Brien, he's going to be the guy." But like the way he came out and like shit on all the fans that were tied to Paterno and saying like they're crazies and stuff, I don't think you come back from that. Like it's not like they cratered without him. And so like he hasn't had success either. Like really. So like it would be a weird fit, you know? If Bill O'Brien had just won the Super Bowl and he said, you know what, I'm going back to Penn State and we're going to bring it back, I think it would be a totally different scenario. But he's just like on Alabama staff, right?
I think.
He's just like a Saban guy. And yeah, he had success at Penn State, but that was a really, really weird situation. Now it's totally different with the NIL and stuff. How's he going to go into a recruit's house and say like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm building. Ryan Day can just say like, look, we're going to just keep going to the playoffs and stuff. You're not going to stop us. Like Bill O'Brien, what? He look how he traded his players at like the Texans. If you don't like compete for him, you're going to be in the transfer portal in a year anyway, you know?
Makes sense.
Like honestly, like I don't know. I think that's gone. I think if it's them, they look at Carolina and Matt Rule and say like, all right, how much do you like the NFL? Because they're having a tough time right now. He was awesome at Baylor. I know Baylor continues their streak, though, so maybe it's more of a system thing. But he has the Penn State connection. He can bridge that gap and kind of heal the culture there and say, like, look, we're going to get our guys here. And I think it would bring a lot of the big boosters back that are kind of just, like, floating around, not really doing much with Penn State, it seems like. And, like, maybe fix the bad blood with, like, the Jay Paterno stuff. I don't know. Not really a Penn State guy, so like I don't care if they ever fix that. Like, it's crazy to me, but like in terms of looking at the NFL guys, and that's why I just combine both these because you're looking at Bill O'Brien, ex-NFL guy, Jeff Fisher. Like Jeff Fisher going to USC is just absurd to me, and if they end up going that route, it's almost like you might as well just hire Herm Edwards. From Arizona State. Aren't they?
That's right. Like,
aren't they in first right now? Just hire him away.
But that makes like that's why, for as crazy as you think that is, that's why it makes sense.
Who hiring Jeff Fisher?
Jeff Fisher. I mean, even speculating Tomlin, for as hard as he denied not wanting to go, like
I don't think USC is that great of a job. I'm telling you, we went back through the history on the show. They weren't that good in the 90s. It wasn't like Alabama where they're competing every decade. And so
but it's almost comparable. Like you had Pete Carroll that was with the Patriots.
He's the one guy. And they had how many sanctions against him?
That was before NILs.
Yeah, but look at all the deals UCLA's bringing in. UCLA has been bringing in more deals than what USC's been getting. You have to be able to, like, if you're a coach, you have to see that. Just because they talk about, like, Carson Palmer being like, yeah, remember when I was there, we were cheating and stuff, and we were really good. Now you have Oregon firing on all cylinders, taking guys right from LA. You have UCLA bringing in tons of money, to me, which is absurd. But they have Chip Kelly. I know they're faltering again. If they would have somehow beat Oregon both Oregon and UCLA would have been 2 lost teams. Like I had said, maybe they go to the playoffs like that. I don't know. But now it's like Utah or Arizona State. Like the Pac-12, everyone talks about beating each other up. I don't see Oregon coming out of there, but if you're USC, I don't see how you can say, all right, I'm going to come in and we're instantly going to be more appealing than UCLA or Oregon or like Stanford or whatever, because you're not. Like you're talking 20 years ago, Matt. These recruits, when USC was good, they weren't even born. Right? They were like babies. Or maybe they were like 3. When did Reggie Bush play? They're like 3. They're not growing up watching Reggie Bush anymore. Like, that's how far gone they are past that era. It's like when Harbaugh came in and they were talking about like the Charles Woodson and like even Desmond Howard and all that stuff. Like, Harbaugh had to rebuild that because kids didn't know. Luckily, the Denard Robinson years had like kind of bridged that gap. But like USC has had what? Sam Darnold? They've had some good quarterbacks, but outside of that, I don't think recruits are lined up to play at USC. I know they get the ones that are out there, but there's heavy competition now. It's not the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but I think also if you start to win, I think you're going to attract people with that program as well. I think with being in
that's
Southern
any
California,
program. Look at Texas, Matt. We hear Texas is back every year.
But you hear Texas is back every year, but
not when they're in the SEC, though. We won't be hearing that. Maybe for the first 2 weeks. They'll be competing with Michigan for September Heisman's. It'll be us in Texas, baby.
but it won't mean as much. But I think with the location of Southern Cal, I think that you have a spot where you can recruit, and all it takes is a little bit of winning, and you can turn it around there.
I don't think an NFL coach is looking at that and saying, unless he's like looking to just retire and do like a Brady Hoke thing where he's like, you know what? I'm not even wearing a headset.
Yes.
I'm going to bring my guys in. I'm just going to recruit and like do my thing.
And that's exactly the way that I was looking at it, because like for someone like Tomlin that's been in Pittsburgh for how long, and then you go to Southern Cal, like immediately the weather's nicer. You're old. You can just relax in the nice weather.
He could just retire and be on TV like Bill Cowher. Why does he have to go continue coaching? He's only 49 too. So like, why wouldn't he just take the Miami job? Like, I'm sure Stephen Ross would love to have him. Like, that would pretty much turn the Miami program around. Like, there's rumors that they're
Manny Diaz needs to stay there.
I'm talking about the Dolphins. Like, there's rumors that the Belichick approach that he has going on there. What's their coach's name? Is it Flores?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know if you saw this story, but apparently he's like, yeah, I have an open door, but you got to come and you got to abide by my rules. And like, he has all these Belichick rules in place. And people are like, it's really counterintuitive the way he has it set up. It doesn't make any sense. So the players like are like kind of having a beef with him. And then he's having a beef with the front office because they were like really trying to get Deshaun Watson. And then he's like, no, I want Tua or whatever. So now it's like a weird situation where he's trying to stick up for his guys going against the front office. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going out. So like, if you're another owner,
maybe it's oh no, darn, I don't want him. Wink, wink.
And we don't know that for a fact. The NFL, remember, they write their own stories, so we don't know. I would say, but if you're reading that story and you're the owner of the Dolphins, then you call up Mike Tomlin and say, hey, are you serious? Why the hell would you go to USC? Just come coach for me. I'll give you a Gruden deal. 10 years, you can like kind of own the team. You can retire down here, focus on defense. Which quarterback do you want? Team up with a quarterback. I mean, that's basically what's going to work out. Because like there are other guys too, like Kyle Shanahan, he's having a complete meltdown. Did you see his interview?
No.
It might have been worse than James Franklin's, I don't know. Where they were like asking him about Garoppolo and he was like confused and was like, well, I got to see who's injured and who's not injured. to see who my quarterback is. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't even know. And I wasn't a fan of him. I know he had a lot of hype, but I thought that was kind of just like a nepotism deal where it's like, yeah, my dad was really good, remember? And like even the promo going in that Super Bowl is like, here's pictures of me and my dad. Then they had choked in Atlanta, so no one was talking about that one. And then he choked at the 49ers, and now they're kind of falling apart. It's his own fault, though.
Fair enough.
Like, how can you go into every offseason and then kind of like petition to get a new quarterback before the rest of the team doesn't like Garoppolo, and now he's in a weird situation. Now he's like, well, I guess he could still play because our new rookie guy kind of sucks. So like, well, what are we going to do? I don't really know what to do here. And he's like, I built the thing. I was like politicking for these other guys like Aaron Rodgers and stuff. Like, come to San Francisco. Like, it'll be great. Come on, please. We need to trade Garoppolo. Does someone want him? And then he's like, oh, hey, good to see you at practice. Like, did he expect him not to see those interviews and stuff? I don't get it. The same with like the front office. Like, that can't be a good working relationship. So, I don't know. What else? Oh, Texas Tech. I was looking up their record. Texas Tech fires their coach. They're 5-3, Matt. Who the hell are they going to get? like, I don't know what goes through some of these schools' minds where they're like,
they'll take a run at Urban Meyer.
Hey, we're going to look around and see that USC's open, LSU's open, and they're like, prime pickings, babe. We can get whoever they don't want. We better fire our coach. 5-3. You didn't even give him a chance to like come in and say like, look, we're really disappointed. They had a 1-point loss to Kansas State. Kansas State's not even a doormat in the Big 12 historically. It's not like they lost to Kansas. They killed Kansas. Oklahoma didn't even kill Kansas. Oklahoma could have lost to Kansas. And if it wasn't for that weird call, they should have had a chance to lose to them. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why they didn't blow the whistle. And then they gave like some bullshit rule about like, well, it was a forward pass because he was behind the line and that was allowed. I'm like, all right, are linemen allowed downfield? Or because it was behind the line of scrimmage? Because he did pass the line of scrimmage, right? Then they drove him back like 3 yards.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you can have a forward pass then, right? It's not like I can run around and do all things I want and then just do a pass forward, like a little handoff thing. So I think they were just trying to save Oklahoma at that point. And I don't understand how people can say Oklahoma is so good right now that they're in the top 4. Oh, Cincinnati, they barely beat Navy. It's like Oklahoma barely wins every week. It's like whenever Ohio State in 2002 with like Claret, they were barely winning, and then they just ended up winning the national championship because they ended up never losing. Like, that's what I feel like with Oklahoma. They're either going to have that type of year where they win it all, or they're going to suffer some pretty bad losses pretty soon. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
they don't have a good defense, though. Oh, I don't think Oklahoma or Ohio State would have been struggling with Kansas that year. I don't know how many blowouts they had, but like they were struggling with like, what was Drew Brees on that Purdue team? Like they had some other teams that like were decent. It wasn't like they were losing to scrubs or having close games with scrubs. I mean, but what other coaching jobs did I miss? Texas Tech, though. You're in the middle of nowhere. What are you doing?
Well, see, maybe that's a good omen. You get fired from Texas Tech, and then you go to the NFL, and you're undefeated.
Maybe. I mean, it took him a while. I wasn't sold on him because he had followed. Didn't he follow directly after Mike Leach?
Yes.
And that's why I want Texas Tech to fail. Like, you didn't pay Mike Leach his buyout. That whole thing basically turned out to be bullshit put together by ESPN.
I don't know. I don't think he took over immediately.
Who was in between? Let's look it up because I don't even know. I would just assume that he came right after.
No, because he's young.
Yeah, he was a Mike Leach guy. Let's see. Because the Mike Leach thing, they only fired him because of that controversy with Craig James or whatever. Remember his son? Like pretended he was locked in that locker room. He took a selfie and was like, please help me. Mike Leach locked me in here. I have a concussion or whatever he tried to say he had. It was like the most ridiculous thing. And ESPN immediately ran the story and was like, this makes sense. Like, what are you doing? Now you look at what ESPN does and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense.
It was the defensive coordinator, Ruffin McNeil.
Oh, yeah, you're right. McNeil, then Tuberville, I forgot he was there. And then they had Tuberville for only 3 years. So this is how ridiculous it is. They had McNeil. He was only the interim for one game, though. He took over after the firing, and then he left. He was undefeated there. He won the last game.
And then he went to East Carolina.
Yeah, and he didn't do too good. Tuberville, he was there for a couple years. They fired him. And then they had an interim that also won their game, which they didn't promote. Then they hired Kingsbury, a losing record. And Kingsbury was worse than Tuberville. I don't know how he lasted longer. He lasted almost double the time with a worse record. And then Matt Wells, Matt Wells does have an overall worse record, but they're 5-3 right now. How do you know that they don't end up 10-3? Like, at least give them a chance to upset Oklahoma. Oklahoma hasn't looked good. Now you basically fired your coach and you're playing Oklahoma. How is your team going to rally around that? Right?
Right.
Like, you have your worst stretch. Oklahoma, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Baylor. Why not just say, this is it. We're going to have a meeting. This is your last chance. Like, you have to win 2 of these games or whatever. Like, you have to come out and win a couple more games and have a winning record. Just show that you're making progress. Have a winning record. I'm not even saying anything crazy. Like, you're 5-3, get a bowl game and win one more game, whether it's the bowl game or that. Like, I know you have a juggernaut coming up, but we're behind you. Instead of saying, we're going to fire you and we're going to go 5-7. Like, well, great move, Texas Tech. Now watch them come out and beat Oklahoma, and I'll be back next week saying, Oklahoma, what a choke job. They couldn't even beat Texas Tech. But, I don't know. Let's take how much time? I don't even know how long the show's gone. Because my thing's all messed up after the restart. Let's see. Oh no, we're going pretty long already. So, NFL stuff before we shift and get into the other college stuff. I had to pull it out, Matt. Derrick Henry, dude, didn't do too good. He threw a touchdown for me. And so I had to call up my man Tom Brady and say, look, you got to feed Mike Evans or I'm not going to win this week. Like I don't ask you for much. And Mike Evans, boy, did he feed him. And Mike Evans even took his 600 touchdown pass or whatever and gave it away to his charity. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's real, but they apparently paid that guy back with season tickets and a couple signed jerseys and stuff. I'm like, why would you even have to do that?
And team store.
Oh, I guarantee, what is that guy? He's like, hold on, I'll give you this football back, but I got to call my agent first. Like, hell no. They probably could have just been like, hey, buddy, Tom Brady's going to get a picture with you and he'll trade you balls. Do you want one signed? Do you want a game ball? We have 30 balls over here on the sideline. And then the guy probably would have been like, oh, hell yeah, that's perfect. Come down on the field. They wouldn't have had to give him season tickets. Bad negotiating. So hopefully that wasn't done by James Franklin's new agent. That's all I'm saying. I didn't even know what else stood out. The Steelers won. Was it really a big win? I don't know. I mean, if it was a loss, maybe Tomlin would be looking around, but they won, Matt. So that's all I had. What did I watch last week? Or there was so many rainy games, right?
Yeah.
So last night was a rainy game, and I really don't have anything. If someone took my O.J. Howard advice, that was a bad advice. I will say that. But the Browns running back, the first one, the guy that I said to pick up, I get outbid by him, and the guy doesn't even play him. Who picks a guy up and doesn't play him? Apparently, my opponent. He went with his other 2 running backs. Worst decision. Got me the win. So I was very happy that he made that decision of not being bold enough. Probably playing it out to say hey, we don't know how many runs this guy's even going to get. And he had a beast of a game. I'm just not sold on the Panthers anymore until McCaffrey gets back. So I was ready to bench their backup. Hubbard. He hasn't been pulling through for me. And of course, I wasn't sold on the backup running back, which still only got a couple catches out of the backfield. I think 6 points or something like that. So they weren't that good. But I don't even have any tips this week. I tried to look around. Bye weeks. Try to line your bye weeks up Because like if you're consistently having 2 guys on bye every week, you're going to have a tough time during the bye weeks. That's my advice. People that draft all the Steelers and then watch Steelers on a bye week. Yeah, because the Steelers didn't even play this week, did they? What am I doing? Weren't they on a bye?
They were on a bye.
Because that's why I was getting confused, because I saw them beat the Seahawks. But then the Seahawks played a rainy game and they lost again anyway. So now
they lost to Jameis.
Yeah, but Jameis, come on, that wasn't a good showing. He almost didn't get enough points for you. I don't even know how you have him as your quarterback and you're not nervous every week.
I have never been nervous about Jameis ever.
Did you see Drew Brees talking about him on that Manning show?
No.
So I turned that on because my man Tom Brady was on there.
Oh, after you've shit on that broadcast for how many weeks now?
Well, of course I never watched it. And I still have the same complaints. The 2 Manning brothers, they're not in the same room. So there's a distinct delay where you have 3 people all in separate locations where there's a delay in their broadcast. Because like we've done shows where we've done podcasts and normally I try to cut out the dead space. If you watch the video, of course, I don't do that because I'm not a psycho that has tons of free time to make our sports video the best. But I try to do it for the audio because it's a lot easier. You can just scan it. But they can't do that. They're live. So you constantly have 3 people talking over each other, trying to make jokes. And it's like, why aren't the Manning brothers just together? Like, they're obviously paying them to do this. Do they not live anywhere near each other? Like, I would think if I was a millionaire NFL quarterback and my brother was too, I would be like, yo, bro, we should try to live together. And then, like, set up shows and just do them, together. Because, like, it would be so much better if they were somehow in the same room, because it would cut out the lag. They had Sue Bird over, and Eli Manning kept trying to tell jokes while Peyton Manning was telling jokes. So, like, the whole segment was uncomfortable. It was like it just felt weird. And then Sue Bird was just kind of laughing. I think it was Sue Bird. She was just kind of laughing, and then they would instantly be like, all right, well, we're going to commercial. I'm like, what the hell are they even talking about? But Tom Brady, he knew how to do it. And I was kind of impressed with him because he waited his turn, threw a couple jokes in, like he didn't try to talk over either of them. And I thought they sounded pretty good with him. But with the Sue Bird one, the Manning brothers were like tripping over themselves. Maybe they're just trying to impress her. I don't know. But Drew Brees had the same issue where he was trying to talk and then they'd be like interrupting him. I'm like, Peyton, why are you asking him a question and then trying to be like, oh, I know that's a tough question, brother. I know that's a tough question. It's like, just let him try to answer it. Because then Drew, I could tell his face kept getting red. So he wasn't as comfortable as Tom. Guess that's probably why he didn't have the same results on the field. That's why I bring that in. He did talk about Jameis, about how they made a quip about how Sean Payton told Jameis that he's no Drew Brees. They made sure to say that on the broadcast. I didn't know if you saw that.
I didn't, but
but now it's going to haunt your dreams.
Well, no, but I just think it's funny that, like, watching that game last night, like, you could see he was making correct reads, and it was like very blatant that receivers were not running for passes.
You mean like that one guy that just kind of gave up?
Yeah, it was like it was real early in the game. He had a wide open touchdown. The guy's like, and he's just not running now. Like,
and the one Peyton Manning was like, or it was Smith. I forget what it was, how early it was in the game, but it had to be second quarter because I didn't watch the first quarter. I guess Marshawn Lynch was on, and his was like all messed up, his video and stuff. But Smith didn't run, so he threw it incomplete. And then very next pass, he threw a completion to Smith, and Peyton or Eli were like, that's a smart move. Go back to the guy that just didn't run the route and show him that you still got his back. I'm like, got his back? I'd be telling coach to get him off the field. You're not running routes. We could lose this game, and the Seahawks aren't even good right now. So what are you doing? That was my thought on it. But
well, it's ironic to me that, like, the entire thing was just like, Jameis has all these interceptions. He has all these interceptions. They're 4-2.
Oh, they kept talking about, the Manning brothers kept talking about how Who's the other quarterback that was the tight end for them?
Hill.
Yeah, they kept saying about how Hill was more dynamic because he was a threat to run and Jameis isn't. And then like one of the next plays, like Jameis like runs for 10 yards and they're like, and that's what he has to do more, just run more. I'm like, what is it, buddy? Is he not dynamic or should he just be running more? I don't understand what you're trying to say.
But then
here.
As soon as he starts running all the time, it's like, oh, he needs to step up in the pocket and just deliver the ball. Like no matter what he does, it's not going to be right.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think it was just more of along the lines of Drew Brees was there. So they were trying to just like pat him on the back. Like I honestly don't think there was any other reason to just be making slights at Jameis. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, no, because it wasn't even that because I wasn't watching the Manning cast. It was like all of the pregame shows, all of the everything. Like no matter what it is, he always just gets like the brunt of everything. And it's almost comical at this point, like how blatantly like anti Winston literally everybody is outside of me and the Saints.
The Saints right now. Until they try to trade for Aaron Rodgers next week.
And, when I'm watching, he had opportunities to go other places to like take more money and he stays with the Saints. He signs his contract with them. Like any of the videos that I've seen, like they're showing like he's being good in the locker room. So like he's being a good teammate. He's doing everything that you would want. Hell, I wanted Pittsburgh to sign him, and I still do think he would be an upgrade over everybody that they have currently on the roster. Like
no shit, Matt. He's a Heisman-winning quarterback. The only other guy they could bring in, if the Aaron Rodgers thing like doesn't pan out at all, would be Deshaun Watson. Like, let's be honest. To get that caliber of guy right now, I would say try to get Winston, try to maybe get Garoppolo even, because what are you going to get, a rookie quarterback to learn behind Mason Rudolph? Like next year, I don't think you bring Ben back. I just don't think you can.
No,
it's not like you can be like, hey, Tom Brady, can you come here for a bit? Like he's settled in. I bet he retires with the Buccaneers. And if you're him, why wouldn't you? Like, it just makes so much sense that if Mike Tomlin, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I go to the Steelers front office, and this is a callback to the beginning of our show, I would go back to him and be like, look, other teams are interested in me. You saw the USC stupid question. Like, that's idiotic. If anything, I'm going to go to another NFL team. But I don't have to do that if you guys can help me out. Like, I need a quarterback. Ben's going to go. I'm more of a defensive guy. I can get the defense figured out. And we can keep winning playing Steelers football.
Oh, so you're saying hire Gruden to the Steelers?
Why would they hire Gruden?
Because they already have a defense in place.
Yeah, but they're not going to hire him as what? The offensive coordinator?
He could be the head coach and offensive coordinator.
Well, what's Mike Tomlin going to do?
He can just watch from home.
No, Mike Tomlin already has offensive coordinator Ben Roethlisberger. He just needs to turn it over to offensive coordinator Aaron Rodgers. Jameis Winston, they already said last night that they have a different playbook for him because he doesn't know all the plays, and they don't let him call his own audibles. They make the center call them. I guess you probably didn't hear that because you weren't watching the Manning cast. But Sean Payton said that at least he told the Mannings, or one of them, or maybe Drew Brees, that Jameis Winston doesn't have the authority to call audibles at the line anymore. Whatever that means. So the center's calling him? And Peyton was like, yeah, I don't think I would be able to play without being able to call my own checks. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't either. You're the quarterback. You don't let the center do it. Unless maybe he meant just like blitzes or packages. Like, I don't know.
Like change of protection.
Yeah. But I mean, to be honest, if I was a quarterback, I wouldn't want to be changing protection either. Although, as long as you can hear it, because like, who cares if the center calls it? As long as you can hear it and make that adjustment.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I did have one other stat CBS throw up there. Tom Brady has 598 touchdown passes. All Ohio State quarterbacks have 202. I've been telling you, Ohio State quarterbacks don't pan out. Remember Justin Fields in the preseason, how everyone was saying like, oh, all those teams slept on Justin Fields, blah, blah, blah. They were throwing out all this talk about him. And then now the regular season hit, and everyone's like, "Oh, is he a bust?" Like, oh my goodness, can you believe it? But
yes, I can, because there's literally nothing around him right now.
I will say this, just so people don't think that Tom Brady is carrying Michigan. Michigan has 1,068 touchdowns total. So Tom Brady has half, but they also have quarterbacks that have double Ohio State's total, and they're third most of any college quarterbacks in the NFL. Who do you think would be the top two? CBS didn't put that out there, I don't think.
Probably Florida State.
Notre Dame, Alabama, USC. Maybe. I mean, Notre Dame had Joe Montana, so you would have to think it would have to be a legendary quarterback like that. Maybe Pitt. Remember Pitt had like all those quarterbacks a couple years ago? They had Dan
Marino. They're going to have another one. Kenny Pickett will be there.
I know. He's the next Lions quarterback. I keep hearing all these Michigan fans talk about how they want Kenny Pickett with the Lions. So, other schools just wait. Anything else for the NFL?
No.
I know we talked our whole show on that. I did have, before we'll save our college picks for last, World Series, I wanted to bring it up because long time show listeners know that we watch baseball. I haven't really been, it's been tough to follow, like the Astros cheating and just blatantly get away with it. And yet they're still in the World Series. Like they had no punishment done to them, Matt. None. And so now the Braves finally back in the World Series. That was my team growing up. And so I always have been like cheering for them, waiting for them to finally make a move. On the show we talk about the Pirates and the Tigers a bit and the Cardinals. But like, I was talking to some Pirates fans and they hate the Braves so much that I had to talk about it on the show. Cause it's like, why wouldn't you want the Braves to win? Like the Astros just cheated. And I know that the Braves had like they had an international incident where they were like over-signing international players or something. And so like they had their own scandal. But come on. It's not stealing signals in the playoffs and winning the World Series, you know. It's not a guy standing there hitting a trash can to let them know if a curveball's coming or whatever it was, a fastball. I can't remember what their signal was. Like, they're known cheaters. And baseball is just like, no big deal. Like, no punishment for them. Let's punish the Braves for whatever reason. And then let's just wait. Like, they were hoping. I know the Braves choked last year. I don't even remember talking about it because, like, the COVID year or whatever. But you see, like, the Dodgers and the Astros. Like, are people even tuning in for those big markets where they just pay for every single guy? Like, you can point at those teams and say, like, oh, that used to be a Pirate. Oh, that used to be a Pirate. That used to be a Pirate, you know? Like, I remember them when they were on the minor league Pirates team in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with 0 fans there. So, I'm cheering for the Braves, and I hope they win because they're the team of the South. Although I have a feeling that Georgia's in for some rude awakenings. I wonder if we're in for another Atlanta choke and another Georgia Bulldogs choke. What do you think, Matt?
The state of Georgia will just burn if the Braves and Bulldogs end up winning.
Well, because like Tampa, they had the Lightning win, and then Tom Brady won the Super Bowl. Normally, like the cities, they kind of rally around that and get those good vibes going. That's why Michigan's been down. Detroit, like the Pistons and the Lions haven't been helping. Tigers, like, nah. Hasn't helped out the Spartans or the Wolverines. But maybe some good vibes in Atlanta. I watch it, and then I went back to look because seeing all the Pirate negative comments, they still like that. They still hate Sid Bream because he was a Pirate who went to the Braves. He beat that Barry Bonds throw. And so I started to do some digging for the show, and I had mentioned the Congress hearing earlier where they went after baseball for steroids. Matt, I'm very suspicious about the entire thing. And maybe I'll save this for an off-season topic, but I was looking and I'm like, why didn't the Pirates re-sign Barry Bonds, because of money, of course. Same with Bobby Bonilla. Remember the Mets gave him that ridiculous deal where they still pay him, I think? Don't they still pay?
I think they're finally done.
Are they done now? Well, so the Giants signed Bonds to like the most expensive contract at that time, Like, he was one of the highest paid free agents. So, of course, the Pirates weren't going to bring him back. So, let's go ahead and let's blame the Braves for the Pirates turning into a wasteland. Instead of, hey, we were right there, almost in the World Series, and you know what? We're going to let our guys go. You know? Like, let's hate the guys that ended up going to the Braves because the Pirates didn't want to work a deal out with them. And it's the same story you've been hearing for 30 years with them. But as I was looking up that, I looked up most home runs by year because I thought, wait a second. Barry Bonds back in the 90s, like, everyone accused him of doing roids, right? And so, like, wouldn't he have had a gigantic spike? Like when he started to do roids or whatever. But he's the only player to have 500 stolen bases, and maybe it's been passed up now, and 500 home runs, I think. And so I was looking through this home run list, and I was like, oh, well, what's really weird is if you go down through the list, Barry Bonds was always in the top of home runs anyway, before they even accused him of doing steroids. That year where they played the Braves, Fred McGriff had the most with 35. Barry Bonds had the second most, I think, if I'm reading this table right, with 34. The next year, when he went to the Giants, Barry Bonds, 46. Dave Justice from the Braves, I think he was with the Braves at that point, 40. So, like, why didn't the Pirates just sign Barry Bonds? Like, they could have just had him. But the thing that stuck out to me, Matt, so up until that 90s run with your boy Mark McGwire. So Mark McGwire in 1998, he randomly hits 70 home runs, right? So you're like, oh my God, what happened? Why did it go from 46, 43, 40, 47, 38, 49? Like, those are the totals. It's always in the 30s or 40s up until that 1 year. You have a 4-year spell of 70, 65, 50, and then 73. I don't think steroids caused that spike. Remember how I talked about there was rumors recently about Major League Baseball changing the baseball? I wonder if they changed the baseball in the 90s. Because, like, Mark McGwire just didn't randomly start taking steroids in 1998, man. College, he was talking about doing it in Oakland or wherever they were. Was it still the Oakland A's? Did they move back then?
They were still in Oakland.
Because he was with Canseco, right? In the 80s. His whole book was about how they would do steroids together in the 80s. You're telling me that he randomly couldn't hit 40 home runs in 1992 to beat Fred McGriff for the home run title on roids? Like, I bet there's more bullshit that the Major League Baseball had covered up with the help of Major League Baseball. There's no way that baseball went from 50 home runs as like the max all the way to 70 for only 4 years, Matt. And then it dropped all the way back down to 49, 47, 48, 51. Then the only other spike year was 2006, Ryan Howard with 58, and 2017, Stanton with 59. Every other year throughout history, it's 40s and 50s. So I guarantee baseball had something to do with that spike. I think that they made it too high. And they were like, oh shit, now these guys are coming for the record books. We got to do something. And they blame steroids. That's my conspiracy theory. And you can't prove otherwise because look at the stats. Why would there only be 4 years in history where multiple dudes are hitting 60, 70 home runs and it never happened ever again, ever? Right?
Well, I almost wonder too with it being McGwire and Sosa at the same time, if pitchers weren't serving up a little bit too, just to feed into it, like because of the competition between both of them. You're
like, you're going to get my best stuff and throw a home run. But it wasn't even him. Like Barry Bonds was in that all 4 years. So the 4 years, it was 98, it was McGwire 70, Sammy Sosa 66. 99, McGwire 65, Sammy Sosa 63. 2000, Sosa 50, Bonds 49. And then 2001's Bonds 73, Sosa 64. And then it goes back to 2002, Sosa 49, Barry Bonds 46. So like I'm saying, you're telling me Barry Bonds, he goes from 42, like he's on this list like 18 times. Probably not that many times, but he's on here 46, 42, 34, which is a ridiculous low number to even be on this list. And then you're telling me just for 2 years, or actually it's only that 1 year, he just took what? More steroids? They were like, well, yeah, he has the most home runs because he took steroids. It's like, no, he's been hitting more home runs than everyone else while everyone's on steroids. Like, he's on the list so many times, but he just had only hit 40 up until that point. So I wonder if they let McGuire and Sosa have those 2 years, and they said, let's see how far we can get this going. Bonds gets into it. Bonds breaks the record, and he's closing in on Henry Aaron. So they're like, crap, we can't have this. And so I think they did whatever they needed to do to get rid of it. Change the ball, had those players get suspended or whatever. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me looking at the list. Steroids doesn't make you hit 30 more home runs, Matt. Like, it just doesn't. Because there'd be so many different records broken in like the Olympics and stuff too. But I just wanted to bring that up because I did my research. Let's go Braves. Beat the Astros. I hate how Major League Baseball picks and chooses. How can you be against my man Barry Bonds, not even put him in the Hall of Fame? But yet here are the Astros, and I have to hear them hype them up for multiple years. What is this, the third year they're in the World Series? Like, it's been a couple times, I think. So it's just annoying to me. The same with, like, they talked about how, what was the bad call in the NFL? There was like a spot call where they had the ball in the wrong spot, and then someone called down, and then I think the official died. Did you see that?
No.
So I think NFL replay official died after the game. And I was like, yeah, he died after working the Titans and Chiefs game. And so, because I'm watching for my man, Derrick Henry now, because he's the only thing that keeps me going these days. And so I'm watching it, and I thought there was a call. I can't remember what the controversy was. But now, he like died after the game. And so I'm like, what happened? Like, was he so distraught after that call that he had a heart attack? It's like the NFL rigging of the game where he's like, I can't rig another game. I can't do it. He just couldn't take it. His heart gave out. Like, that's another conspiracy, but you hate to see that. But I just don't know why they don't have more of those. But I guess even the guy in the booth gets stressed out to the point where he can't handle it. Because, like, everyone up in the booth or whatever, they're going crazy. But let's get into our last topic, college stuff. I know we already talked about a bunch of it, so gonna hit this fast. I'd mentioned Michigan State. They're both undefeated. Mel Tucker's been rumored to be on the list for a lot of other jobs. And so now you're looking at it and you're saying, like, where do you go? Is he going to be able to beat them, or is he going to be looking elsewhere? And what do you do at that point? So what do you think, Matt? Who do you think wins this game? It's at Michigan State.
Well, I think Michigan they're going to end up beating Michigan State.
Why? Harbaugh sucks in games on the road.
But I think he has the quarterback play. I mean, my opinion hasn't changed, and I don't think that Michigan State has the players to compete.
Well, that's been the big story because they do have a bunch of players this year, and they distinctly got them from the transfer portal. And that's been one of the things that has tied him to these other jobs, where schools like LSU, where they're down, they're thinking, and I'm not even using him as an example for them, but that's where I've heard it said, like, LSU is very excited about the chance of hiring a minority coach, which would go for him and James Franklin. And they like the fact that if you can hit the transfer portal, you might not have a rebuild year one, because you already have those connections. You've been successful with it. Who's to say you can't just hit the transfer portal coming in and saying, like, look, we're right there. We can be back, have 9 or 10 wins in our first year, or by year 2. Like, you give him a year or 2 in that transfer portal, because that's what he did at Michigan State. Remember, I was thinking it was an awful hire last year. They beat Michigan. Michigan looked awful. I mean, get rid of Don Brown, and he's looked bad at Arizona. So maybe the new guy. I just think Michigan has a lot of young pieces that aren't really proven yet. Like, the offense, not really proven. Sure, they're running on everybody. And someone did bring up a stat where Michigan's like the second most efficient team using like the advanced stats behind Georgia. And so that's why all the computer metrics have them as a playoff potential team. But at some point, you're going to have to pass the ball. And they haven't really been tested other than Nebraska. So that's what makes me hesitant to say Michigan's going to win. Because I've seen this story where Harbaugh has a team, it looks like they're clicking through October. At the end of October and November hits, and the team just falls apart. And so, like, you could be looking at a Michigan job being open at the end of the year. I mean, who's going to crater harder? Who's going to crater harder, Matt? Penn State or Michigan? Michigan's what? 7-0, 6-0? I don't even know what the record is. I think it's 7-0, right? So if things fall apart, who's to say Harbaugh's just like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to the NFL. I'll take Tomlin's position. And then Steelers will see the most conservative run heavy offense with Najee Harris that you've ever seen. and it will be like epic battles between him and his brother. That's what it would end up being. Because I don't think he's crazy enough to go to like the Lions. Remember when the Browns really wanted him? And he I think he met with them, but he's like, no, I'll go back to college instead of go to the Browns. But I don't know. I just don't, I'm not sold. If they win this one, you still have to go to the road at Penn State. I think this game is bigger than what a lot of people realize because you're looking at a situation where if Michigan loses this game and wins out, they might not win the Big Ten. Because if Michigan State, even if they lose to Ohio State, then Ohio State has that other loss where I think the tiebreaker would go to the head-to-head between Michigan and Michigan State if there was a three-way tie, which means the winner of this game has a heads up as long as one of them beat Ohio State. And as it's looking right now, I think Ohio State's going to kill Penn State. I don't know if I ever gave my prediction because I think I asked you earlier. But I'll say Ohio State's going to kill them. Franklin's on the way out, and that's never looked good. And so maybe I'm thinking you're looking at Michigan and Michigan State beating Penn State too. Does Penn State end up with 5 losses, 6 losses? Who knows? Like if the team gets crushed this weekend, maybe their entire spirit's broken. And James Franklin's already not making sense at press conferences, so he's not going to be able to get him back. Like that could just be like, and then if you're LSU, hey, yeah, we hired that guy. I think you hire Mel Tucker, right? I don't know. I don't think all three are going to be, I don't think it's going to be a three-way tie though. I think one of the teams, Michigan or Michigan State, is going to have some extra losses. I don't know who yet. Well, I guess we'll find out this weekend who shows up. The other big game I had, and I know it's big for you, Clemson and Florida State. Because Florida State now, hear me out here. I know I've been dogging on them, but the ACC looks like trash. And so Florida State.
Here comes that backhanded compliment.
No, I'm saying that in terms of having a team that can really come back, like if Norvell is the guy, there's no excuse for him taking that jump. Now, if he beats Clemson, I think Florida State is in position. I don't think they're going to win the division this year, but I think you can build on this for next year. I think Clemson is a bigger game than what a lot of people realize because Clemson has looked so bad on offense. This could give Florida State, they played Notre Dame close, and Notre Dame still only has 1 loss. So you know Florida State has the guys on the team. Win this game. They only have 2 losses in the division. It's not crazy, Matt. I mean, it might not be a good outcome for the ACC, but this could play into the division because let me throw this out there for you because I don't think a lot of people know. On the other hand, Pitt's the clear favorite in the Coastal. They play Miami. So in the meantime, who do you have in that one, Pitt or Miami?
I have Pitt. Like Pitt's due to have that heartbreak game, but I think when you look at what they have right now, they have so many fifth-year senior players that I have a hard time going against them. Like they should be a favorite in a lot of these games for the rest of the year.
I think if Pitt beats Miami, I think they're almost locked in to the championship at that point. I know they have to play Virginia late, so that could be a tie-breaking type game. But like, I really don't see Pitt losing to like Duke and even UNC at this point. I think they have the better quarterback, like you had mentioned. But going back to Florida State, because I wanted to just get my numbers correct. So they already lost to Wake, but they do still play NC State. So if they beat NC State, that's 2 losses for NC State. Wake Forest still has 4 games left in the conference. They play UNC, NC State, Clemson, and BC. It's not crazy that they lose 2 of those games and put a couple of 2-loss teams in a tie. So if Florida State is able to get this win, how do you know that they're not going to win out at this point? They play Clemson, NC State, Miami at home. NC State and Miami are at home. And then they play on the road at BC, which, come on, BC doesn't have the horses to keep up with Florida State if Florida State clicks. So this game's a lot bigger than what people think. Just in terms of the ACC and putting Florida State back on the map, do you think they have a chance to pull it off? Because I'm throwing it out there for you.
I absolutely do. I mean, with watching the last couple weeks, like this past weekend was UMass, and like in years past, I don't even know that it would even be normally a game that you turn on and you watch. You know?
Nope, I wouldn't, and I didn't.
But it was like you want to see. Like that's a game that they should absolutely blow the doors off them. And you know what they did? They blew the doors off them. And what made it nice was that Walt Bell, who ran out and when he left Florida State to go to UMass, caused the domino effect of Sam Howell decommitting and going to Mac Brown and UNC. So I mean, there were a couple other alternative pieces there that it was nice to see. Walt Bell thriving at UMass and just getting absolutely blasted.
See, you're making me throw some asterisks out there. I'm learning from other Big Ten fans in regards to Michigan. Like, Michigan blows a lot of teams out like that, but then you hear, like, asterisks, they're bad. That doesn't count as a blowout. You blew out Wisconsin, asterisks on that one. Like, that doesn't really count. That was just a poor Wisconsin team. Now they're saying, like, Wisconsin's a competitor in the West, and they're like, that can't be true. Michigan blew them out. And then they're like, yeah, but that Nebraska team was close, and they played Oklahoma close. And they were like, yeah, but that was a rivalry game, so that's an asterisk for Michigan and not Oklahoma, Matt. Because like,
but I think
they used to be rivals.
When you look at earlier in the year, Florida State loses to Jacksonville State.
Asterisks on that one.
So like,
it was at home.
That was a home awful loss. That was an unexcusable awful loss. And to see the progress from that game to this one where you go out and you absolutely manhandle who you're playing, that's a huge step forward. Now, I will say the one aspect of it is they cannot take Clemson lightly, because even though there's going to be some players out for them this week,
I saw that they're pulling. Didn't your high school opposing coach use that excuse about COVID, about why they lost? And then Clemson's doing the same thing. Must be like deja vu. And you're not saying it; I'm saying it, so you can't get in trouble.
But yeah, I mean, there is that stuff happening this week, so they should, in theory, play tough. And we hope that they come out with another win. It would be a great step in the right direction.
Well, talking about crazy losses, how the hell did Pitt lose to Western Michigan? Michigan killed them, and I thought, how the hell is Pitt losing to them? When that happened, I remember it because we had people over that weekend, and I was just thinking, like, Pitt is going to end up with 6 losses. And now they could be almost undefeated. And Western Michigan's 5-3. It's not like they're like only losses to Michigan. So it's like, why did Pitt lose?
You don't watch a lot of Pitt football, because watching Pitt, and I've said this countless times on the podcast, being a fan of Pitt football is like being in an abusive relationship.
Matt, but this year's different.
They're going to lose to a direction school for no reason.
Yeah, but their only other close game is a 1-score game against Tennessee that they won by a touchdown. Like, it wasn't like they won by a field goal or less. they've beat everyone else by more than 2 scores, or 2 or more scores, I mean. So, like, that's why, like, you beat Miami at home, like they've done in the past. You beat Duke on the road. You get North Carolina, Virginia at home. Like, do you choke at Syracuse before the ACC championship game? And put on the record, of course, if Pitt and Florida State play in the ACC championship, I'm sure we can get tickets for, $10? So are you in coming down?
I would be in.
Is that in Charlotte? I'll go to that game. We'll see. We'll get Jeff. Say, hey, you coming down, bro? I know they tarp off some of the upper seats. If they have like 3 extra people buying tickets, they might not be able to put those tarps down, but I'm sure we can get in real cheap. People will be like, a 4-loss Florida State team? How many losses does Florida State have? 4? 8-4 versus, what would it be? 10-2 Pitt.
The only team in ACC history to win their next 3 or 4 after losing their first 4.
Is that ACC history you said?
Yes.
I was going to say, when did Michigan lose to App State? Like, they had a crappy loss, like you guys lost to Jacksonville State, and then they end up beating Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer in that bowl game. Like, how embarrassing. That's the one thing that cracks me up. Everyone talks about, like, hey, Michigan lost to App State. How embarrassing. It's like, yeah, but then they beat Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer in the bowl game. Like, maybe App State was just good, you know? It's not like they cratered and were like 1-12.
Well, that year they did go to the FCS National Championship. They played Delaware and your man Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, people look back and they always laugh because they're like, haha, Michigan lost that game. I'm like, yeah, but if you look at that team, they kind of came back and put stuff together and actually were pretty good. So, and then now App State's got a bump up from that. So if anything, all it did was identify that App State's probably a pretty good program. And they just upset Coastal Carolina, who you always talk about.
Yes, they did.
And messed that up. And then who else lost that was undefeated? I think someone else did too. I was too focused on the ACC this week because I'm trying to throw up crazy scenarios to get. I was hoping for an NC State Pitt championship matchup, but I don't think that's going to happen after they choked to Miami. But to be fair, I was going to bring up Dave Doran's coaching, but they had so many receivers just drop the ball. And at some point, it's like bad luck. Or it's like, is it coaching? Like, is it the same guy dropping all these passes? I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't watch their roster too close. But that's the one thing where it's like, if you're going to take that next step, like, you got to have the breaks. So, Anything else you have for college football? I think those are my big games. I mean, Oklahoma, like I had said, they're playing Texas Tech, but like, whatever. I don't even know what the other big matchups are. The big 2 are in the Big Ten, obviously. And, of course, because ESPN bid on the Florida or the Ohio State Penn State game, now we get Michigan at noon. The big noon game. Undefeated teams in Michigan, rated 6-8. Unbelievable. It's at noon. I have to wake up and watch that. And if we lose, it's going to ruin like my whole holiday weekend. I guess Ole Miss plays Auburn. Who do you got in that one?
Oh, it has to be Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think they win too. I actually hope my man Mike Leach beats Kentucky, because I want to set up a scenario, and it's not that far fetched. Like I had said, you might get a 3-way tie in the Big Ten, in the Big Ten East, because the rest of the teams are falling apart. And if one of them ends up beating Ohio State, do you get 2 Big Ten teams in the playoff? The rest of these conferences are beating each other up. Alabama already has a loss.
Beat Georgia.
Well, who do you think Alabama's going to beat Georgia?
No, Georgia's winning it out.
Because if Georgia beats Alabama,
you're the Bulldogs.
If Georgia beats Alabama, and Cincinnati already almost choked once, so they lose. I don't even think you need Notre Dame to lose because Michigan and Michigan State are both already ahead of them. So if you get up there and you're sitting at Michigan or Michigan State with 1 loss, being to Ohio State only, and Ohio State wins the Big Ten, I don't see how you can put them out of the playoffs and then put like Alabama with 2 losses in. Like, right? The only other scenario would be Alabama beating Georgia and then they both get in. Do you put 2 teams from both conferences in? That would be a weird scenario. And people would call for expanding the playoffs. Although I think it'd be funny if Michigan made it. If Michigan State got in that way, I'd be so mad. Could you imagine Ohio State and Michigan State both making it? Like, Mel Tucker would have to announce that he's going to LSU right before the game, and they would have to get absolutely killed for me to enjoy it. Same with Ohio State. Ryan Day comes out and it's like, you know what? I am going to go to the NFL and take the Giants job. And then everyone's like, oh, nice. And then to see Georgia, that'd be the only time I'd root for the Bulldogs. So that's it. I don't have anything else. You got anything for the final bell?
No, I don't.
I do have a replica 1995 Atlanta Braves Championship World Series ball where all the players signed it, like as a fake like print, I think. I'm going to be rubbing it for good luck. They're up 5-1 right now. I actually have a Braves bat too. It's like a little like
maybe just pound a garbage can for good luck.
Well, I have a little Braves bat, but it's kind of like yellow. And I was like, why didn't they make this white and then put the Braves logo over it? Like, why yellow? It's so weird, but I wondered if they just didn't want it to get like stained or something. I used to have a Tomahawk, and my mom said that she's going to pull out some of the old Brave stuff because she thought I had some extra guys and stuff up there, but I didn't see it yet. So I don't know if my Tomahawk's probably gone, but I'm hoping that they pull it out. And hopefully Michigan wins. And I'll be honest, Matt, I wouldn't be against seeing a Pitt Florida State ACC championship game because I would want to go see that. So here's the hoping that it happens. I think it'd be good for the show. It would actually be excellent. Pitt winning the ACC championship while Penn State craters and loses their coach and then hires Jeff Fisher. And that's all for the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.